handshake and let her know she's a strong black woman. Townsend moves on to the third round Friday to play Myra Andreeva of Russia. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
At the tone, please record your message.
You ready?
Drop it!
Mr. Tavis Smiley, preach it. Thank you, man. Politics in this country is crazy. You put things in perspective that even I didn't. The right is playing fast and loose with facts and scapegoating everyone under the sun, especially black and brown people. As a white man, I do not agree with this, and I am on my black and brown brothers and sisters' side. Fight the good fight. You know that I am part of the resistance. Let's fight the power.
Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Today is Thought-Provoking Thursdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. And in our very first hour, we have a very, very special guest, Dr. Khurram. Currently is a member of the United Nations Security General's High-Level Advisory Board on Effective Multilateralism. Dr. Khurram, Dr. Asa Khurram, is well-traveled throughout the entire world. Prior to joining Religions for Peace, she served for nearly 2 decades in the United Nations, UNDP, and UNFPA, including as coordinator of the Arab Human Development Reports, a senior advisor on culture, a lead facilitator, trainer for the UN Strategic Learning Exchanges on Religion, Development, and Diplomacy. During her time in the UN, she founded and was co-convener of the United Nations Interagency Task Force on Religion and Development, as well as the Multi-Faith Advisory Council on that task force. Dr. Khurram, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I think Dr. Khurram's mic has to be unmuted. Hi,
I'm here. I'm here. Thank you very much for having me.
I am particularly honored that that you are here on this occasion. Dr. Khurram, there's so much going on in the world, and your perspective is vital and important. I was watching earlier today a fairly fascinating and a welcomed video of a conversation that you were having on leadership and the appropriateness of leadership in the particular context that we find ourselves in at this hour. In our first segment, which we have about 4 minutes left on, can you share with us some of those thoughts at the beginning of our program?
Surely, I think it was very clear. The question that I've been asked was, what do leaders today need? And I actually said, don't really have leaders who have what it takes, meaning we need leaders who are
Dr.
prepared.
Khurram? Yes. Dr. Khurram? I think we have a small technical difficulty. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you don't mind, come out of the program, log back into the program. I will opine for the next 3 minutes until we work out this technical difficulty, and then I think you'll come across a little clearer. Thank you, Dr. Khurram. Look forward to hearing from you momentarily. I wanted to, as we work through this technical difficulty, just reflect upon where we are in our country, and an amazing comment that I got from a member of our program who listens on the regular, Phyllis Wallace. Phyllis Wallace wrote me this morning a note about the collapse of the Democratic Party. One of the most important observations after 17 years in the Congress of the United States was the conservative right-wing movement that I noticed in the Congress to change the Constitution. Interestingly enough, the Democratic Party did not organize itself around any vision that would amend the Constitution of the United States. It just simply hasn't. It turns out, in the most ironic of ways, that the political party that is against amendments or not supportive of amendments is actually the political party of the status quo. In this regard, the Democratic Party is the nation's most conservative constitutional organization in the United States. And while its constituency is the most in need of constitutional reform with guarantees, therein lies the irony. While Republicans maintain a limited vision of democracy and the role of government, their constitutional amendments attempt to achieve these goals as a major organizing activity in all 50 states. It is the Democratic Party that claims to be the party of education, of health care, decent, safe, and affordable housing, equality for women, a clean, safe, and sustainable environment. But these are legislative and policy-oriented goals for the Democratic Party. They are not goals that seek to add these fundamental rights to the Constitution of the United States. And while the Democratic Party is focused on public policy and unlimited talking debates over public policy, the Republican Party's ground game, led by the ghosts of Jefferson Davis and generals like Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson, Longstreet, and Pickett, is to change the Constitution, which I find to be the most powerful political force in the United States body politic. In the most brilliant political and military tactics I've ever seen, conservatives are pushing all of the liberals into the bluest corners of our nation, where their liberal policy prescriptions are acceptable and where our interests are unfortunately aligned and our backs are against the wall. For these conservatives in both Democratic and Republican parties, this war did not begin in Vietnam, but at Fort Sumter in South Carolina. In short, why is the Democratic Party ineffective? It wants to win a debate rather than institutionalize the gains of the rights from Brown versus the Board of Education to the civil rights and voting rights to Roe v. Wade, which they never advanced even as a piece of legislation to codify the decision and ultimately reestablish the American people's faith in the Constitution itself. I believe the obituary of the so-called modern Democratic Party must acknowledge this fact, and it certainly must be part of the eulogy. Democratic liberal loyalists will often scoff at the idea that their temporary policy prescriptions can address the long-term health needs of the Republic. Congress has shown us, as well as the courts and history, that the good well thought out liberal ideas are temporary at best. We've placed a lot of our faith in those ideas. We've placed a lot of our faith in being right without the institutional organization, a movement to convince all of the American people that our Constitution is deficient to sustain our so-called gains in the Constitution over time. In fact, the Democratic Party doesn't even want to talk about faith or even use faith analogies. They are so anti-faith that they have no idea how to restore the people's faith in the Constitution. At this hour in American history, the deficiencies in the Constitution of the United States on the question of human rights could not be more glaring. When we come forward, more on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show with Dr. Azza Karam.
After nearly 20 years in Congress, he knows how to get at the issues that matter the most to you. Every day, he takes a deep dive into politics, social justice, and the stories that shape our community. Unapologetic, unmissable. You're inside the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580.
See website for details. Bills Happen is not a lender and does not make credit decisions. Hey, bills happen. So when you need extra cash fast, go to billshappen.com. Have you been turned down? Are your credit cards maxed out? Do you have bad credit? Go to billshappen.com. All you need is a job and a checking account. You can find a lender and get up to $5,000 cash as early as tomorrow at billshappen.com. Billshappen.com is the smart way to get a personal lender now. So if you need extra money for car repairs, medical bills, family emergencies, whatever you need cash for, go to billshappen.com and you can get the money you need as soon as the next day, up to $5,000. At billshappen.com, our process is safe, secure, and all online. No one to deal with in person. And Bills Happen does not charge you any fees to use our service. It's easy. When you need a lender, just remember, when bills happen, go to billshappen.com. Billshappen.com for the cash you need now. Billshappen.com.
Are you ready to be a part of the conversation that will help shape our nation's future? Get ready to join us for the Left Coast Forum, Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech, where progressive voices will come together to tackle the issues that matter most to working families across Los Angeles and beyond. From economic justice to climate action, from healthcare to housing, we're bringing together the brightest minds and most passionate advocates for real solutions and real change. With workshops, 2 major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and help strengthen your immune response. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. In this hour, Dr. Aza Karam, who currently is a member of the United Nations Secretary General's High-Level Advisory Board on Effective Multilateralism, is our very special guest. We had a technical difficulty in the first segment. Dr. Karam, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, you sound so wonderfully clear. I'm so honored that you're here. Dr. Karam, these are obviously very difficult and very challenging times in the country and around the world. The question I asked in the first segment was this. There are different models of effective leadership. Obviously, high-level effective multilateralism requires an understanding and an appreciation not only of ourselves in the leadership capacity, but of other selves, and the ability to respect, care for other selves, kind of built around one of the great commandments, to love your neighbor as yourself. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this question of leadership, the kind of leadership that's necessary for a time such as this.
Well, Jesse, it's going to have to be the leadership that we may have had in incredible figures who should not have been solitary figures ever, but like Bishop Desmond Tutu, like Nelson Mandela, people who are not simply in a position of leadership, but people whose positions with others and in life exemplify the kind of leadership that we all need right now, meaning brave, unequivocal solidarity, unrelenting commitment to the common good, not to personalized or group self-interest. It needs to be a leadership that will take us forward precisely because the polarization and the challenges and the hurt being done to people at all levels, the different kinds of normalization of violence are as they are today. We are having leaders who do same old, i.e., by virtue of their position, whatever that is, they are considered leaders. No, we need people who serve communities, who may not be seen at first glance as leaders, who may not be even termed as leaders, but their actions for the common good, sometimes, if not often, at great cost to themselves, but intended for the greater good. We need that kind of servant leadership that is quintessentially brave, that will take the plunge, do the leap of faith, if you will, for others' good, not just for mine or yours or those who think like us, look like us, and talk like us.
You know, I find that I think you took the words right out of my mouth, because I was going to mention servant leadership, but servant and obviously sacrificial leadership. And I think when you reach back and grab Nelson Mandela, or you grabbed Bishop Tutu, and I'm sure there are scores of other models that you could give us, it seems to me that the life experiences of that kind of leader propels them to the forefront of the order, or of the in time response to what's taking place in our world, that is part of their understanding over time of all of the historical factors that came together in the present that ought to be dressed from that kind of leadership. And by that I mean a kind of, when you come through a fiery furnace, you emerge as a Nelson Mandela. When you started out one way as Mohandas Gandhi in South Africa, but through the ashram and through the process of watching his people, and then a desire to identify with his people, he comes through something to arrive at the Great Spirit. And Martin Luther King Jr., who had to, if you will, remove his own middle class background and middle classness to identify what the average person was going through in the segregated South here in the United States. It seems to me that this servant leadership isn't always just someone who put their name on a ballot and runs for office and says, hey, I'm doing what the poll told me to say. This is a leadership that's born of character.
Absolutely. And we are living in times that are churning, that should and are indeed enabling a leadership to emerge. If these conditions, Jesse, do not lead us to identify the kinds of leaders that we need, and the people who serve at cost to themselves, then I don't know what it's going to take. I shudder to think of what it's going to take. But you're absolutely right. There are many that you have cited that have gone through the absolute fire to emerge. But we must also bear in mind that the character that they had already, even before they went through the fire and the flames, that was a very unique, giving, altruistic, principled, faithful character. Now, it doesn't have to be faith in religion as we know it today. It's even faith in human rights. In fact, that's precisely what we're missing. We're missing faith in human rights as our way forward. And that is kind of precisely what we need people to be believing in as we go through the fire. So we don't need to wait until the person comes out of the fire. Honestly, we're in it now. And it is ultimately a test of the mettle, the essential character of people. Those who are principled, believe in the equality that the Creator created us with, quite frankly, but also have a vision for what it is and will be to serve, and who are ready, willing, and able to pay a price for what they believe. Because we are in a mindset of immediate gratification on one hand, and two, things are supposed to come easy. Things are not supposed to come easy, Jesse. Things are going to cost. We need to be in the space of public service, understanding that there is a cost involved and being prepared to pay it. And it isn't always a very pleasant cost. Sometimes it's hard, it's tough. It's either going to be prison or it's going to be marginalization, alienation, people speaking negatively, people even trying to harm you physically. That is what we have to be fortified, understanding that we will face challenges, but we also need to identify who our friends and allies are and work with them, and all of us be prepared to serve everyone, knowing that we may get hurt, but we've lost the ability to create alliances. We've lost the courage to take what it takes, to pay what it takes, and we believe still that a position marks your leadership.
Dr. Crum, when I began my career in radio, which is coming up on its first anniversary, I began that week, that Monday through Friday, with some eminent theologians, Dr. Aubrey Hendricks and Dr. Walter Fluker, a renowned theologian on and biblical scholar on the question of the work of Howard Thurman, and others. Michael Eric Dyson was on our program. And when we made it finally through the end of the week, I asked each, Dr. Robert Franklin, each of those guests this question: why hasn't and I hate to look at it through the lens of race in this particular question because I think the question is so universal, why hasn't the MAGA community, or if you will, the white community, produced, if you will, a Martin Luther King Jr.? Why have we not seen that leadership model in that part of the body politic?
I'm going to answer you as a North African who has taught and lived and continues to try to serve.
I think you might have moved your microphone.
No, I'm still here. I hope you can still hear me, Jesse.
Now I can hear you perfectly.
Great. I'm going to answer that question as a North African who has lived and worked and continue to teach about the region of North and Southern Africa. So I'm going to tell you from my perspective that, quite frankly, the colonial era that we have lived in and are still living the impacts of has created a certain power dynamic where those who come from the Western Hemisphere tend to be predominantly white, though by no means all white, but those who come from the countries who understood colonialism to be their rightful inheritance because they were doing good. Remember, it was always about doing good. It was the white man's burden. But that has produced a certain way of thinking and of seeing the world. I would call it an attitude of entitlement that, and by the way, unfortunately, you can still see and sense in a slightly younger generation today. But that attitude of entitlement is still deeply prevalent in the Western Hemisphere, not just in North America, but most certainly across Europe. And it is as if I exist to serve, if I am willing to serve, then surely I deserve what I should get. Whereas if you look at all those leaders that you have mentioned, they did not come from an attitude of entitlement. They did not come from privilege. They had to walk through the fire. So there's a very different set of experiences that ethnicities, races, genders have gone through in our world, Jesse. And we can't just, in a sense, if we are to be different, we also cannot judge the others and say, why can't you be more like us? But we have to understand that our experiences shape us, and colonialism is still very much with us as a remnant. It does not go away. Relationships of power that were brutal never go away. They continue generation to generation.
Dr. Aza Crum is our very special guest in this hour. Dr. Crum, let me continue to press that because surprisingly, and I think I'm constantly amazed by the spirit energy of our guests, because that's exactly the same answer they gave. They had a profound sense of entitlement. They've never had to produce one. They've never had to produce women who fight for equality and human rights. They've never had to see the perspective of those who've been left behind or locked behind or damned or disrespected or mistreated or maltreated. They've never had to do it, and everyone uniformly arrived at the idea that they struggle with entitlement.
If I may, just a wee little point, a caveat there. Women from the white classes of privilege, of traditional privilege, historical privilege, have fought hard for their rights, Jesse. Women never get it easy, no matter where their class or race or background is. It usually is pretty darn hard to get it. So I think we also owe recognition, and that is where I guess there's also a very big difference between different cultures. We owe recognition of those who have struggled, who have fought, and most certainly of women and a select group of men who have fought hard for equality, for justice within their own communities and for others. So I would not want to dismiss the women who have struggled for their equal rights, even in the whiter communities. I do think it's important to pay tribute. I do think we need different leadership that acknowledges that the harder the struggles have been, the more there is less, or let's say, the harder the struggles, the less the sense of entitlement. The more the privilege, the more the sense of entitlement.
I think that the facts bear out exactly what you just said, and so I certainly don't want to come off as dismissive for even white women who have led struggles like Susan B. Anthony and others who have fought for equality for women and have paid a great sacrifice and contribution to the country. I do want to say, however, when I bear the facts in our own political context, to which I can statistically justify, when we see how the body politic reacted to Hillary Clinton's election, or we see how white women abandoned Kamala Harris for president and still voted for Donald Trump, notwithstanding, it seems that when we threw everything at Donald Trump, that abortion, his treatment of women, the cases that he had found himself as a defendant in, by the time it was clear that he had, in my opinion, disrespected women and has low regard for women who happen to be white and who happen to be blonde, they still voted for him. So I recognize that the struggle of women of color is, they've really been the backbone of the freedom struggle, even for women in that context.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They have, Jesse. And we need to keep one thing in mind, that it wasn't simply about Hillary Clinton or about what we saw happen. There was a bigger context to it. Many of those who refused, there were people who refused to vote, Jesse, for either of the candidates, whether it was Kamala Harris or whether it was Donald Trump. There were many who refused to vote for either. And it wasn't necessarily exclusively a gender-related issue. It wasn't.
I think I lost her microphone again. Dr. Crum, I think I lost your microphone again. And I think I'm going to chat for a second, and then we're going to come back and bring you back in one more time. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, more with Dr. Aza Karam.
The biggest names. The best conversations. You're riding with Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Reverend Al Sharpton, Martin Luther King Jr.'s son, and thousands marched on Wall Street today, pushing back against the Trump administration's rollback of diversity, equity, and inclusion policies.
No justice! What do we want?
Sharpton says the protest is a reminder of the power of Black Americans and their dollars, while the administration calls DEI initiatives discriminatory. Black Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser says Trump's federal crime crackdown has reduced carjackings and made neighborhoods feel safer, but she remains concerned about residents living in fear with federal law enforcement patrolling the streets. And the Washington Nationals are hosting HBCU Day Friday at Nationals Park, featuring the Morgan State Marching Band, recognition of Howard's MEAC champion softball team, and a post-game show with Ja Rule and Ashanti. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
At the U.S. Open Wednesday night, Jelena Ostapenko of Latvia learned a very valuable lesson. Do not mess with a sister from Chicago. Taylor Townsend, a 29-year-old African-American, was pretty much an unknown tennis player before beating Ostapenko in straight sets 7-5 and 6-1. When the players shook hands, Ostapenko told Townsend she had no class and no education. Ostapenko claimed Townsend was disrespectful for not apologizing for a point when Townsend's shot bounced off the net. Ostapenko said Townsend violated a rule in tennis by not apologizing. There is no such rule in tennis, even from an etiquette standpoint, where a player has to apologize for scoring a point. Townsend stayed in Ostapenko's face during the heated handshake and let her know she's a strong black woman. Townsend moves on to the third round Friday to play Myra Andreeva of Russia. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
At the tone, please record your message.
You ready?
Drop it!
Mr. Tavis Smiley, preach it. Thank you, man. Politics in this country is crazy. You put things in perspective that even I didn't. The right is playing fast and loose with facts and scapegoating everyone under the sun, especially black and brown people. As a white man, I do not agree with this, and I am on my black and brown brothers and sisters' side. Fight the good fight. You know that I am part of the resistance. Let's fight the power.
Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least likely to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hello, I'm Joe Cordell, founder of Cordell & Cordell. Divorce is complicated, especially when your small business or professional practice is involved. At Cordell & Cordell, we understand that these assets raise unique valuation and allocation issues. For 35 years, we've helped doctors, lawyers, and small business owners navigate divorce with confidence. Call us at Cordell & Cordell. Let me tell you, I understand on a personal level, your business is much more than a job. It's your legacy.
1455 Frazee, San Diego. CordellCordell.com.
Hey, listen to this. All I needed was a new starter. Got a great deal on eBay. Did it myself.
Yeah, that's cool. But how about the soft purr of an upgraded exhaust when it fits just right?
For me, it's the little things, like these new windshield wipers from eBay I installed.
From small fixes to big upgrades, eBay has all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Here come the drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. on KBLA Talk 1580 in this hour. Dr. Aza Karam is our very special guest. She's currently a member of the United Nations Secretary General's High-Level Advisory Board on Effective Multilateralism. Multilateralism is the idea. Typically, countries come together to address shared goals and resolve problems that transcend individual national capabilities. That's multilateralism. Unilateralism is a policy or action by one party, particularly in international relations, taken without regard for other parties' interest or with their opposition. Dr. Karam, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you. I hope you hear me now.
I certainly do. Dr. Karam, Donald Trump is acting unilaterally with his tariffs, and it is destabilizing countries around the world, as well as political governments and, if you will, democratic regimes that could have broad and lasting consequences and ramifications for everyone on the planet. Please share with your thoughts about the decades, really, that it's taken to arrive at multilateralism as an approach, and now for the nation, the one nation in the history of the world with the power that the United States has, to be taking these unilateral positions.
That's a great question, Jesse. And I think it's important to think of two things, to understand two things. The first is that multilateralism is also quintessentially about partnerships. It's when you come together to do things together. So it can actually also apply to families, to different communities, not only to governments or nation states. It can apply to civil society organizations working together, and civil society organizations working with businesses and with the UN, a whole bunch of other things. It's multilateral, means multi-sided, the quintessential aspect of partnership, of collaboration. I think what we're seeing in this particular political regime in this country that has been, and I think it's important to always bear in mind that this was not a regime that was imposed on the United States. This was elected. This regime was elected by 74 million Americans. It is valuable to bear this in mind, because when we speak as if everybody is so amazed and upset and disappointed and disgusted and can't believe this. And you know what? We created this. We collaborated to actually lead to this, because even those who did not vote did therefore vote.
They voted. That's right.
Exactly. Then the other thing to bear in mind is this. To be honest, I'm not surprised that President Trump's administration is deciding to behave this way. Did I expect sanity and general kindness and consideration and diplomacy? No, because Trump 101 already gave us a very clear indication. It was 4 years. It was going to be extraordinarily rough. And this was said very clearly. The vindictiveness and vindication that was sought was made clear in many of the public speeches. So you almost can't fault this particular administration. What I do find at fault is that the other countries who are today presented with this remarkable regime of being taxed to pay the US administration, I fault them for how they are behaving. I fault them for when they collude or when they decide they're too weak to take an action or to take a stand together against this administration. I am not feeling sorry for the other regimes and other administrations, Jesse. I am wondering, and it goes back to your question about the kind of leadership that we are seeing, including from supposedly powerful European countries who frankly should know better, but look at the way that they're behaving. They're rushing to accommodate in different ways, each one trying to get a deal for themselves, as opposed to behaving together as multilateral, trying to stand together with other countries' administrations to be multilateral in the face of his unilateral. Because unilateralism can succeed when it overcomes multilateralism, when there are others who collude, and they can collude actively, or they collude by deciding to not make any problem, not make any risk, just try to get the best deal we can for ourselves. And that's precisely the kind of leadership that we're seeing. It lacks bravery.
I can imagine, and that's very well said. I can imagine that in a multilateral conversation, amongst nations trying to work out difficult problems, particularly humanitarian needs, that when the unilateralist shows up seeking deals, that the conversation quite likely transitions from the idea of human rights, from the least of these, to the concern for people who cannot eat, cannot get vaccinated, have significant infrastructure problems within their country, and even being able to provide for the basic assistance needed for their people. That this unilateral shows up talking about raw minerals, talking about deals, talking about cut us in or cut it out. It shifts the entire spirit, energy, and mood of the entire meeting, and it has devastating consequences.
It sure does. If it's not, if there's no one ready to get the others behind and stand up together, it does shift. But it shifts because there are those who are willing to look away or back down or decide to pretend to focus on the most important things. We have arrived at this moment because we are not finding leaders who will work multilaterally, who will come together to stand in opposition to bring better enlightenment. Let's not talk about opposition, shall we? Let's be diplomatic. We are not seeing the world's leaders come together. This leader is able to be so unilateral because others are afraid. That is exactly what is happening in here. When we must never lose sight of this, that it is not because there is an inability to stand up to someone who may be perceived as a bully, but it is because we won't. And everyone is running to hide in their respective corner to look after their immediate interests, which are very serious. They're very severe. Yes, it's about food and water and sanitation. It's about the basic needs of every human being. But we can't say that we're going to defend the basic needs and provide for them. But we also have to make sure we do that at the expense of standing up to what is quite clearly unjust. We can stand together. These governments, these countries, Jesse, can and should stand together. If they don't, then this is what you see. And it is not exclusively the fault of the person here.
I think, Dr. Karam, that the devil that they know, particularly in Europe, is Vladimir Putin. They see his relationship with Donald Trump in Ukraine. The devil that they don't know is quite unexpected, that they expected the United States and America to, quote, have their back. And America does not seem to have their back.
That is why it's about courageous leadership, Jesse. It's not about waiting for someone that you were traditionally used to coming to protect you. Heck, we tell our kids when they reach a certain age that they're now independent. They need to learn how to stand alone, and better still if they can stand together for the sake of what is right and just. So yes, of course. The point here is, why are they so dependent on America and trying to scurry around to try to find a way of still keeping America as the good guy? What has transitioned right now, what we are actually seeing, is a world in which tyrants rule, and they are in every corner of the world. So tyrants have a language of understanding each other. They make concessions to one another. So who's waiting for somebody to come and protect them? Why are they waiting for someone to come and protect them? Yes, very clearly, the United States is no longer a dependable ally. How long is it going to take? How many examples? How many people have to die and starve to death around the world for that very simple reality to be understood and acted upon?
You're listening to Dr. Azra Karam on the KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, more of that truth from Dr. Karam. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're an African American mom who is pregnant or have a baby under 6 months old, you deserve care that lifts, listens, and lasts. Black Infant Health is for you. It's a free program with individual support, group sessions, and resources to start your mothering journey. BIH makes space for moms and their families to create community. Learn more about the programs in Los Angeles County. Check us out at blackinfanthealth.org.
Imagine a world without heart disease and stroke, where every person has the chance to live a full and healthy life. Join us for a walk to save lives at the American Heart Association's Greater Los Angeles Heart and Stroke Walk, Saturday, September 20th at the Rose Bowl. Every step made and every dollar raised means more people learning CPR, more life-saving research, and more time with the ones we love. Sign up at heartwalkla.org. The LA Heart and Stroke Walk is sponsored by Optum, UCLA Health, Keck Medicine of USC, and Dignity Health. Thinking about going electric? Now is the perfect time. Electric vehicles cost less to run, don't need gas, and need fewer repairs than gas-powered cars. You can also save with federal and state tax credits, and in some areas, qualify for rebates on home charging stations. To learn more, visit www.breathesocal.org. That's www.breathesocal.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Worried about eviction? You have rights, and Stay Housed LA can help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between LA County, the City of Los Angeles, and local service providers. From Lancaster to Long Beach, we're here to help you with tenant education workshops, legal clinics, free legal services for eligible tenants, and online resources about tenant protection laws. Don't face eviction alone. Call our hotline at 1-888-694-0040. That's 1-888-694-0040. Or visit stayhousedla.org. Stay Housed LA, keeping Los Angeles residents in their homes. Stay Housed LA, your rights, your home, our community. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The following is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways with the purpose of soliciting sales of vacation ownership. For complete details, please visit fvgradio.com. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxury resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now, 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and get a complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431, and give us your answer. The proceeding is not a contest and is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways and not sponsored by this program or its affiliates.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is Thought Provoking Thursdays. This is my first time ever interviewing Dr. Aza Karam, who is currently a member of the United Nations Secretary General's High-Level Advisory Board on Effective Multilateralism. And prior to joining Religions for Peace, she served for nearly 2 decades in the United Nations, including as coordinator of the Arab Human Development Reports, a senior advisor on culture, and lead facilitator trainer for the UN Strategic Learning Exchanges on Religion, Development, and Diplomacy. Now, I have this program on Tuesday called Tenacious Tuesdays, but Dr. Karam, who is speaking truth to power on Thursdays, is about to create Tenacious Thursdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Dr. Azra Karam, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you again for having me, Jesse.
I'm so glad. Listen, let's cover a little bit more of the world. There is no truth coming out of the conflict at this hour between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Share with us your thoughts on where we should be in this human rights debacle and the starvation of Palestinians in the Gaza.
We should never accept it, allow it, and be silent about it. I think the challenge here is that the Israeli government or the Israeli regime feels empowered to do what it deems necessary from their vantage point of takeover and starvation, of genocide and the elimination of an entire group of people. They feel empowered because of 2 things. One, they have, it seems, the full backing of the United States administration, which members seem to be tripping over each other to provide justification for this genocide. And you also, the other reason, though, is that you have the rest of the world wondering, twiddling its thumbs and wondering what it can do beyond speaking out. Yet we have mechanisms. We have the United Nations system. The best thing that's coming out of the United Nations system today is a few countries coming together to say, this is stop the ceasefire now. You have to stop it now. Who's listening? And coming up with statements when people are starving. And by the way, not just in Gaza, in Sudan, in DRC, there is mass starvation going on in many parts of the world. And the leaders of our nations are using the multilateral platforms to say, stop it. Now that's a bit crazy, don't you think? That's all we can do is at best speak out and say, stop it. There are mechanisms even within the United Nations in order to try to put in a peacekeeping force in that space. There's something called Chapter 7. There's something called responsibility to protect, things which member states, which governments have agreed to do. Why are we all so strangled by a UN Security Council in which the United States imposes its veto power to block anything, and the General Assembly is running around in circles, but deciding to celebrate 80 years in next month? But we're saying statements, we're making statements. People are dying, and the best we can do as a community, as a global community, is talk. And some of us aren't even going there. Some of us aren't even speaking. Some of us deciding that things just have to be sorted out somewhere else, away from them. Religious leaders are being silent. Religious leaders are not coming together to try to pull the ears of their respective officials and say, do something now. Use the rules in place. There's such a thing as international law. Use it to intervene, not just to speak. They're not saying anything either. All our interfaith organizations are mumbling and trying to figure out what to do. And the best they can do is the best what the politicians can do, which is say, stop it, y'all. You need to stop it. That ain't good enough.
Dr. Karam, thank you for that. You know, I am particularly moved in this moment because many of you may or may not know that Dr. Karam is also the wife of P.L. Da Silva. Dr. Da Silva is one of the regular contributors on our program. And Dr. Da Silva, your husband was so wonderful when he first came on our program and said, you know, I have to come out of academia to actually speak to the people, because we need platforms right now where we can tell the truth and speak this truth to power. And I really want to travel, as I've done with your husband, around the world. We only have a few minutes, and I always ask our guests to end on a word of hope. Is there any resolution that you think that is satisfactory to the crisis in the Ukraine between Russia, Putin, and Donald Trump's obviously throwing his hands up in the air and embracing Vladimir Putin?
Yes, the resolution is not going to come through Donald Trump. We're all waiting for the U.S. administration, for Donald Trump to take a position on this, take a position on that, to do something about this, to do something about that. And the man has made it perfectly clear. He's going to allow whoever it is who's running with genocide to continue running with genocide, because it is apparently in the benefit of some. And at the same time, he's going to tax everybody else so that he can get some money into this country, ostensibly. We're waiting for one nation to save the world when we actually have legitimate instruments called United Nations mechanisms, called international law, that is meant to save the world. Can we depend less on President Donald Trump and the Republican Party of the United States of America and depend more on the instruments of international law and order? Can we do that? Can we mobilize that? Can we look to them and insist that all the world leaders are held accountable by virtue of being members of this United Nations system? But we've all decided to throw the United Nations out the window. It's useless. It doesn't work. Well, great. That lands us with none other than Donald Trump.
Dr. Karam, I'd like to set the framework for our next hour with Dr. Johnny Mack, who graciously provides extraordinary insight for us on Dr. King's idea of the World House, by definition, in my opinion, multilateralism. But Dr. King also warned us about the triple evils of racism, militarism, and poverty. Of course, we'll be discussing this more in the next hour. But in your final thoughts, offer us a word of hope. In your opinion, is the World House that Dr. King envisioned still possible?
It is not only still possible, it is absolutely necessary. We see things, we've been approaching things in segments, Jesse. This is now about race. This is now about sex. This is now about the environment. This is now about politics. I'm sorry, Jesse, but the truth of the matter is something that a very renowned scholar, African-American scholar called Kimberly Crenshaw, said very clearly. There is intersectionality in everything we face. Everything is connected. Heck, our H2O water that we need to survive is connected to our earth, is connected to what we're doing to this earth, which means also the genocide is taking place. Everything is connected, Jesse. We need to work intersectionally, internationally, multilaterally, multi-religiously, but we're doing silos. We're stuck in silos. If we want to honor his vision, we have to understand it is a call for all of us to work together for the justice of all, not for some, not for a few, but for all. And it is so interdependent. So I'm sorry, even the white supremacists in this country who think that they're going to do well just by looking at their own supremacy, they also need to understand, and they do, and they will see that they can't live it here alone on a planet that's burning.
Dr. King said that the house was burning down. All of the imagery that Dr. Karam has laid on us is evidence that she knows exactly what we're looking at. And I talk about that interconnectivity all the time when I think about the American democratic process, that we bring all of these things with us, even though we have one vote. That knowledge, that understanding, that sensitivity, that historical narrative, the historical narrative of various groups that have experienced oppression in our system and in our world, but we have one vote. And I think we see the one vote as something we cast for a personality, Dr. Karam. I'm not so sure that we see it as the tool of interconnectivity where everything comes into the present in that moment, and you have the opportunity to vote for justice or to vote for injustice, to vote for housing or to vote for homelessness. You have that power in your one vote, but you must have an understanding, as Dr. Karim said, of interconnectedness and and the mutuality. We have about 30 seconds, Dr. Karam. A final thought.
Reciprocity is what all faith traditions, all of them, from the indigenous all the way to the latest, reciprocity towards the service of one another is what all faith traditions call for. It is time to remember what our faith traditions call for and stand and hold accountable. Ourselves stand accountable and hold accountable in how we vote, in how we speak, and in what we do. Reciprocity and faith is what we need.
Dr. Aza Karam, thank you for being on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580.
Thank you for having me.
You're always welcome back. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, we will be in the World House on Thought-Provoking Thursdays with Johnny Mack.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Reverend Al Sharpton, Martin Luther King Jr.'s son, and thousands marched on Wall Street today, pushing back against the Trump administration's rollback of diversity, equity, and inclusion policies.
No justice! What do we want?
Sharpton says the protest is a reminder of the power of Black Americans and their dollars, while the administration calls DEI initiatives discriminatory. Black Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser says Trump's federal crime crackdown has reduced carjackings and made neighborhoods feel safer, but she remains concerned about residents living in fear with federal law enforcement patrolling the streets. And the Washington Nationals are hosting HBCU Day Friday at Nationals Park, featuring the Morgan State Marching Band, recognition of Howard's MEAC champion softball team, and a post-game show with Ja Rule and Ashanti. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
At the U.S. Open Wednesday night, Jelena Ostapenko of Latvia learned a very valuable lesson. Do not mess with a sister from Chicago. Taylor Townsend, a 29-year-old African-American, was pretty much an unknown tennis player before beating Ostapenko in straight sets, 7-5 and 6-1. When the players shook hands, Ostapenko told Townsend she had no class and no education. Ostapenko claimed Townsend was disrespectful for not apologizing for a point when Townsend's shot bounced off the net. Ostapenko said Townsend violated a rule in tennis by not apologizing. There is no such rule in tennis, even from an etiquette standpoint, where a player has to apologize for scoring a point. Townsend stayed in Ostapenko's face during the heated handshake and let her know she's a strong black woman. Townsend moves on to the third round Friday to play Myra Andreeva of Russia. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your blood.
Keep
following the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. In our second hour on Thought Provoking Thursdays, we have the World House with Dr. Johnny Mack. Johnny Mack is the principal managing partner of the Johnny Mack Group, LLC, and founding director of the World House Project, Incorporated. Weld traveled throughout Americas, Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Middle East, explicating Dr. King's call to restructure the social edifice and its triple evils of poverty, racism, and militarism with a revolution of values that are effected through peaceable power, building communities without borders. Johnny, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Good to be here, Jesse. How are you?
Great. Johnny, in the last hour, Dr. Aza Karam was our very special guest. She represents an agency and a collaboration with the United Nations on issues of religion, issues of peace, and more specifically, multilateralism. Multilateralism as opposed to over and against unilateralism. It seems to me that Dr. King's metalogic on the question of building a world house against the triple evils of racism, poverty, and militarism had to be a multilateral point of view. Johnny Mack.
Well, of course. So if we all are living in one house, a single house where we all have to figure out how to get along together, we have to be multilateral. We have to be inclusive. We have to recognize our interconnectivity. And that was quite thematic and axiomatic in Dr. King's framework of nonviolence and the World House.
I have received most recently this wonderful article that you wrote, A Metalogic of Nonviolence by Martin Luther King Jr.'s Logic of Nonviolence in the 20th Century by Johnny Mack. And I must be candid with you. I am planning on reading it this weekend. It is a very thoughtful and profound treatment and essay. Johnny, you feel compelled and felt compelled to extend Dr. King's logic beyond where the circumstances of life and history ended his life to an even broader point of view. Can you share that point of view with us, Johnny?
I think I got your question, but Jesse, could you repeat it? There was an interruption didn't get
In short, you built upon Martin Luther King Jr.'s work to a meta logic that includes building the World House, which Dr. King himself might have given and did give some consideration to, but by definition, the circumstances of life and history ended his life prematurely. And so carrying that work forward in the real contexts that we find ourselves in nearly 4 decades, 5 decades, almost 5.5 decades after his death, that work has largely fallen upon us to build and reshape the social edifice and the world that we find ourselves in.
Yeah.
Quite an enormous task.
Indeed, Jesse. In fact, if I may, it's not so much that the work has now fallen on us since Dr. King's assassination. It is that the work was always ours.
I say, and I identify with always ours, but brought to our attention in a very forceful way by Dr. King, because I don't think, Johnny, that people start out multilateral. I don't think they start out as global. I think they start out as narrow. I think they start out as provincial. I think they start out as tribal. And then here comes Jesus of Nazareth, right? Here comes Gandhi. Here comes Dr. King. And here comes some of the most thoughtful leaders that have ever lived, asking us to look at the planet, asking us to look at ourselves in the cosmos against the backdrop of other things other than self, other than narrow perspectives. And I certainly heard that from Dr. Aza Karam in the last hour. She was really, really clear that we really have that choice that Dr. King, but it's either going to be nonviolence or non-existence. We're either going to love our neighbors as ourselves, or foolishly, we're going to watch the entire planet itself perish.
Yeah, indeed. Yes, the task has always been a collective task. And yes, you're right, Jesse, that it often takes a voice, and sometimes voices, sometimes a single voice, to remind us that we're all in this together. The responsibility is all of ours. And I think that was Dr. Karim's message in the last hour for certain. And I think one of the reasons we've been so atomistic, I hate to use those terms, we've been so individualistic, is the very narrative that we adopt, the very narratives where we're raised in, the very narratives that we are socialized with, to think individualistically, to think that the whole paradigm of our existence is about getting all I can, and you have to get all you can, and shame on you if you don't. Not realizing that in order for you to realize your fullest potential and your greatest dreams, I should realize my fullest potential and my greatest dreams. And if we can work on this together, we're much more likely to do that than we are to seek to realize such dreams individualistically and in conflict and competition with each other.
You know, in this moment, Johnny, I can see exactly why Dr. King was challenging the economic system. I mean, from the moment we enter elementary school, we are told that we are unique. From the moment that we enter high school, that we are unique, or college or any other form of higher education, that we need to get a job, that we need to get a home, that we need to get things. And at no point in time are we acculturated, if you will, to the idea that we have a responsibility to our neighbor and not just ourselves as part of our basic human orientation. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, we're going to dig ever deeper into the World House's foundation with Dr. Johnny Mack.
After nearly 20 years in Congress, he knows how to get at the issues that matter the most to you. Every day, he takes a deep dive into politics, social justice, and the stories that shape our community. This is where prominent people unpack perplexing problems. Unfiltered, unapologetic, unmissable. You're inside the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580.
See website for details. Bills Happen is not a lender and does not make credit decisions. Hey, bills happen. So when you need extra cash fast, go to billshappen.com. Have you been turned down? Are your credit cards maxed out? Do you have bad credit? Go to billshappen.com. All you need is a job and a checking account. You can find a lender and get up to $5,000 cash as early as tomorrow at billshappen.com. Billshappen.com is the smart way to get a personal lender now. So if you need extra money for car repairs, medical bills, family emergencies, whatever you need cash for, go to billshappen.com and you can get the money you need as soon as the next day, up to $5,000. At billshappen.com, our process is safe, secure, and all online. No one to deal with in person. And Bills Happen does not charge you any fees to use our service. It's easy. When you need a lender, just remember, when bills happen, go to billshappen.com. Billshappen.com for the cash you need now. Billshappen.com.
Are you ready to be a part of the conversation that will help shape our nation's future? Get ready to join us for the Left Coast Forum, Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech, where progressive voices will come together to tackle the issues that matter most to working families across Los Angeles and beyond. From economic justice to climate action, from healthcare to housing, we're bringing together the brightest minds and most passionate advocates for real solutions and real change. With workshops, 2 major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and help strengthen your immune response. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. And in this hour, our very special guest is none other than Dr. Johnny Mack. Dr. Johnny Mack is the president and founder of the World House Project, Inc. Johnny, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Happy to be here. Thank you, Jesse.
Johnny, on page 4 of A Metalogic of Nonviolence, Martin Luther King Jr.'s Logic of Nonviolence in the 21st Century, you write, history and values give context to the social systems and institutions that sustain the human condition and support social organization. In the latter, King understood violence and nonviolence as diametric value logics, as opposed to mere alternative types of social action. In the former, he saw history would be their record, which would inform about past and instruct present decisions humans make about living in the world house, where he asserted all humanity must learn to live together as one family or, quote, perish as fools. End quote. This point is integral to understanding his nonviolent logic. It is essential to answering the question, where do we go from here? Furthering that question invokes others. How did we get here? And where is here? For King, here is at one place, time, and condition where we humans meet our existential selves, find meaning in life, and realize our potential or not. Here is where King takes on Hobbes and Thucydides in his understanding of human nature and its corollary social relations. His paradigm is all for all. And then he quotes, "The universe is so structured that things did not quite work out rightly if men are not diligent in their concern for others. The self cannot be self without other selves. I cannot reach fulfillment without thou. Social psychologists tell us that we cannot truly be persons unless we interact with other persons. All life is interrelated. All men are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny." Dr. Johnny Mack, what would Dr. King say about this hour in light of that vision?
Well, I think, first of all, he would be appalled. It seems so obvious, almost too obvious to even state how appalled he would be at what little progress we've made and how we have moved backwards, and how drastically that backward move has been, Jesse. Yes, the passage you read begins with the decisions we've made as humanity. It's important to understand from King's perspective and this whole metalogic framework that we have the world we have because of the decisions that we've made. Those decisions weren't made for us. They weren't handed down from some mighty hand from above, nor were they handed up from some mighty hand from below. Jesse, we humans have no one to blame but ourselves for our condition, for our place, our time, and our condition. We are where we are today because of the decisions we made yesterday. And at this time, if we continue to make those same decisions, that is, if we don't learn from our history, again, the historical record that we refer to in the passage, then as the wise sage said, we're doomed to repeat it. And certainly, Jesse Jackson Jr., isn't that exactly what's going on? We're actually, whoever we are, whoever is making those decisions, is repeating the very history that so many of our fathers and forefathers fought for and against.
I'm sorry, John, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Please go ahead.
No, I think that that on the one hand, it seems so simple. On another hand, the logic itself is extremely philosophical at the level that certainly the academics might understand it and be able to debate it. But when I think about the logic, for example, that we've missed, Donald Trump uses what we have been given as a real blessing by Martin Luther King Jr., and today is justifying the absence of that logic by occupying DC, occupying major municipalities where we have black mayors under a kind of non-logic that crime is going up, or we have not learned the basic lesson from Martin Luther King Jr. that we should learn how to live together.
Well, Jesse, it's interesting the way you put the point and imply the question. Complicated, yes, perhaps so. But as you rightly state, that logic is being used by the current administration and those who are advising the administration. So the logic isn't so complicated that that others are effectively using, as you say, the very logic that King espoused and admonished us to study and apply toward nonviolence. The problem here, Jesse, is that the logic is being used violently, and we don't realize it. We assume that what is what has always been, and that we are powerless to do anything about it. But quite to the contrary, as we've said before on this show, the people have ultimate power. We simply don't realize it. And we have no mechanisms of using it. And we don't take the time, as King admonished us to, we don't step back and say, what do we, as those who have the monopoly on nonviolence, do to organize that monopoly in ways that serves our best interest? And so, on the contrary, those who would use that very same logic against us are succeeding.
You raised the question after confrontation, then what? What is our appropriate response under the logic to what we are existentially feeling? And by that, I mean yesterday's newspapers reported that in 2.5 weeks, there have been more than 1,000 arrests in the District of Columbia. That's 1,000 potential new felons if they are successful in whatever criminality they might suggest of Black people. Don't forget, largely Washington, D.C. is still made up of us, which appears to be where, by the way, the National Guard and the police are doing most of their patrolling. 2.5 weeks from now, we'll be looking at 2,000 people. A month and a half from now, we'll be looking at 3,000 people. And he's now seeking a larger, more permanent presence in the District of Columbia, which could be 5,000, 6,000 men and women who catch a case. I can only imagine, using the same logic or even the same data, that when the president brings troops to Chicago, given the scale and size of this city compared to the District of Columbia, we are talking tens of thousands of people who could be apprehended, arrested, and charged under this regime. These are men and women who may be permanently felonized for the rest of their lives during this period. I do know something about that. Help me understand, after confrontation, then what in this environment?
So Jesse,
we're going to confront, by the way. We are going to have a confrontation, by the way.
So Jesse, just think about it. We've accepted and have actually come to believe that nonviolence is solely about direct action confrontation. And certainly direct action confrontation is important. But is it all important? Is it the only thing important? Is it the only means, the only tool, nonviolent means and tools that we have in order to confront the foes against us? Are there other means of nonviolent social action that can help us overcome and fight, as someone has said recently, many have said recently, fire with fire, so to speak? Are we truly doing that? You know, think about it. After 9/11, a couple of acts were passed, including the Patriot Act, the Homeland Security Act, I think is the other. Jesse Jackson, imagine if those acts had been in place 60 years ago, during the March on Washington, during the many campaigns in communities, particularly in the South, during the apex, the height of the modern civil rights movement. What then would the result of that movement look like? Is it that these acts have anticipated that our means of confrontation can be arrested through certain laws or accommodated by those laws to make them less effective? Think about what we've actually realized through nonviolent direct action since the mid-20th century, not only here in the United States, but globally. So the question after confrontation, then what, simply says, after we've protested, after we've gotten in the way, after we've not cooperated, after we have had strategic interventions, and we still don't realize our desired goals, our desired ends, we still operate under oppression and disenfranchisement and so many other ills that limit our life chances. What do we do then? That's the question. Are there no other remedies? The methodology of nonviolence suggests that
I'm not so sure there are other remedies, Johnny, under the Christian ethos. And you know, I'm going to put a wall on it. There may be other remedies under different ethoses, but under the Christian ethos, I've always seen the experiment of Gandhi and the experiment of Martin Luther King Jr. as a way to effectuate and effectively live my Christian witness consistent with a synopsis or a synthesis, of you will, into a single narrative of the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. To that extent, I don't need the Bible before Jesus of Nazareth. I need that account of Jesus of Nazareth. So I turn my attention to the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I try to, in my mind, synthesize a single narrative to better frame from 4 different angles the character of this Christ-like avatar or this Christ-like figure. I don't need the books after the life of Jesus because that's Paul and others who share their witness. And I think that King is trying to identify with the narrative in the personage of an avatar for himself, not waiting for anybody to come from the heaven, not waiting from a hand above or a hand below, but that hand working with God and through God as his hand, God's hand in human history to bring about bending the arc of justice or bending the arc. At least that's how I see it. Now, I know we're going to get deeper into this after the break. But again, I do see Dr. King as an avatar in that experiment. And I suggest to you that it is an incomplete experiment and that we have an obligation under much of the work that you have attempted to accomplish here in advancing the continuing of that experiment, because even the architect of our faith itself did not live to complete the full design of that belief system. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, it is KBLA 1580. This is Thought Provoking Thursdays, the World House with Johnny Mack. When we come forward on KBLA.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, who is Black, is suing after President Trump moved to fire her, sparking a legal battle likely headed to the Supreme Court. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt defended the firing.
He has the cause that he needs to fire this individual. He laid it out in the letter that he provided to her and to the public as well.
The move follows a DOJ probe into alleged false mortgage statements. Suge Knight says rapper Drake got played after claiming he bought Tupac's death row pendant. Speaking from prison, Knight insisted he was the only one handing out chains in the 90s and personally gave Tupac his diamond-covered pendant, which had no inscription on the back. And Black Maryland Governor Wes Moore says he is heartbroken over the deadly school shooting in Minneapolis. He offered support to Minnesota's governor and stressed that all children deserve to feel safe at home, in school, and in their communities. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
At the U.S. Open Wednesday night, Jelena Ostapenko of Latvia learned a very valuable lesson. Do not mess with a sister from Chicago. Taylor Townsend, a 29-year-old African-American, was pretty much an unknown tennis player before beating Ostapenko in straight sets 7-5 and 6-1. When the players shook hands, Ostapenko told Townsend she had no class and no education. Ostapenko claimed Townsend was disrespectful for not apologizing for a point when Townsend's shot bounced off the net. Ostapenko said Townsend violated a rule in tennis by not apologizing. There is no such rule in tennis, even from an etiquette standpoint, where a player has to apologize for scoring a point. Townsend stayed in Ostapenko's face during the heated handshake and let her know she's a strong black woman. Townsend moves on to the third round Friday to play Myra Andreeva of Russia. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black.
Keep following the leader.
Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow
the leader. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hello, I'm Joe Cordell, founder of Cordell & Cordell. Divorce is complicated, especially when your small business or professional practice is involved. At Cordell & Cordell, we understand that these assets raise unique valuation and allocation issues. For 35 years, we've helped doctors, lawyers, and small business owners navigate divorce with confidence. Call us at Cordell & Cordell. Let me tell you, I understand on a personal level, your business is much more than a job. It's your legacy.
1455 Frazee, San Diego. CordellCordell.com.
Hey, listen to this. All I needed was a new starter. Got a great deal on eBay. Did it myself.
Yeah, that's cool. But how about the soft purr of an upgraded exhaust when it fits just right?
For me, it's the little things. Like these new windshield wipers from eBay I installed. From small fixes to big upgrades, eBay has all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Thanks for starting your morning off with a voice that speaks truth to power and the powerless, getting to the heart of what matters most in our community. This is where authentic conversation meets real action. From breaking news and politics to culture and community solutions, this is where you hear perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. This is where we come together, get informed, and make change happen. You're inside First Things First with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Good morning, sunshine. You make my day.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Come the drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Our second hour. Our weekly host, the World House, is Dr. Johnny Mack, Principal and Managing Partner of the Johnny Mac Group, LLC, and founding director of the World House Project, Incorporated. Dr. Mack is well-traveled throughout the Americas, Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Middle East, explicating Dr. King's call to restructure the social edifice and its triple evils of poverty, racism, and militarism with a revolution of values that are effected through peaceable power, building communities without boundaries. Dr. Mack, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Good to be here. Thank you.
I want to go back to this point about the avatar, because one of the challenging dynamics of my conversation with Dr. Mack is this. I can have lots of social justice activists on my show and have conversations with them. But at the end of the conversation, it does not necessarily mean that I have to reflect upon a transformation of myself, of literally myself. Johnny Mack calls us not just to fight the power, but also to transform ourselves in the process. And that's hard work. I want to go back to this avatar for a moment, because many of us, including myself, were brought closer to the idea of the avatar when the great movie came out just a few short years ago. You would think, based upon the way the movie was advertised, that the avatar were the Na'vi, these little blue-green people, well, not little, but very tall blue-green people that were living on a different planet, completely connected with the environment, the social culture, their connection to a divine power through the trees and through their tails. The Avatar were a beautiful people in an amazing film extravaganza and spectacular. But the avatars are not the Na'vi. The avatars are the humans that found a technology to survive on the planet of the avatar. And then they grew these kind of green or blue biological beings. And through technology, they were able to interact with the Na'vi, Sigourney Weaver and others. They were the avatar. And so I struggle with what Johnny is sharing with us, because we are being asked to be the highest and best of ourselves in our struggle for social justice, at the same time as advocating the rightness of our cause. We're being asked to put on the suit of Paul, put on the suit of Jesus, put on the suit of Gandhi, put on the suit of Martin Luther King Jr. and walk their walk through life and its spaces, not as the person you were born in the world to be, but as the transformed person who becomes a transforming agent in the process of restructuring the very social edifice. I think Michael Jackson probably said it like this: if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make that change. Johnny Mack.
Well, I think that does sum it up, Jesse, doesn't it? It really is up to each of us, and we can't stop there. It really is up to each of us and every one of us. And so we should not expect ourselves to carry, like Atlas, the weight of the world on our shoulders. But we can take our little corner. We can add our little drop into the great stream of life, which becomes that great river that Vincent Harding wrote about. The great civil rights leader himself, who worked with Dr. Martin Luther King. By the way, There Is a River, written by Vincent Harding. But we each have a drop to add to that river, that river that transforms the very structures that King said must be transformed. And so we each have to change the metaphor a bit, put our foot in that river. We have to do our part. And while we might have champions like King or Mandela or Gandhi and others who show us the way, like Jesus or Muhammad, or whichever avatar you follow. Ultimately, they can point the way, but we must walk in the way. It's up to us, each of us, and Jesse, every one of us.
Yeah, I don't. That's hard work,
That's
Johnny.
hard
I
work.
can wake up in the morning, read the newspaper, and issue a press release, or give a speech and talk about the injustice that I see based upon what I believe to be right. And I would be mighty busy in this era if I issued a press release every day or every minute that I heard something I didn't like. But there's also an inward journey that includes my spirit, maintaining my sanity in not reacting to everything, because I don't think I can be my best self for my children. I don't think I can be my best self for my neighbor, thinking about all of the external distractions and overthinking the external distractions and losing my sense of self in the process.
Yeah, but Jesse, is the issue here really about being our best selves, or is it also about creating our best opportunities? Now think about this. One of the reasons King admonishes us to restructure the social edifice is because he understands the impact that the edifice has on us individually and collectively. You know, we have automobiles, not simply because we can create them, but there was a need, and that need was transportation. And so we can travel much further with an automobile than we could or can walking. And so our lives, transportation-wise, changed because we applied ourselves individually and collectively to create a tool, a mechanism of travel. And so is the case with our social edifice and nonviolent social change, or this metalogic that we're talking about. What are the tools? What are the automobiles? What are the mechanisms of social change that we can collectively work on that create the opportunities to transform our social edifice? That's what's missing. It's not so much that I every day have to do something specifically in order for my contribution to this desired change to be effective. But what we collectively have to do is support those systems, whether they are legal systems, whether they are educational systems, whether they are systems of the media or systems of communication, systems of law. What are we doing collectively as social action to change those systems which mediate our action and interaction with the system and the system with each and every one of us? That also answers the question, after confrontation, then what? It is creating those systems. It is putting them in place. It's creating the social infrastructures, Jesse, that help us to help ourselves create the society that we want.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest on Thought Provoking Thursdays is none other than Dr. Johnny Mack. Here we focus on the World House and what we can do to help reshape the social edifice that is the triple evils of poverty, racism, and materialism, not only in our world, but within ourselves. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make that change. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, more with Dr. Johnny Mack.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
JP Morgan Chase offers tips for the local business owners in 2025. Small business landscape is ever changing, and the Los Angeles market is no exception. A startup or legacy business, revisiting your mission statement and recalibrating offerings can renew opportunities for growth and innovations. Programs like Chase for Business Coaching for Impact gives entrepreneurs access to expert guidance, helping you streamline operations, strategize your growth, and navigate complex challenges. Businesses with a clear sense of purpose can navigate any challenge effectively, but also build stronger customer loyalty. Visit chase.com/coaching for impact for more information. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
Agnes was in deep trouble with the IRS.
I owed the IRS a lot of money. I did not know what I was going to do. I was scared.
Agnes caught a break and found out about Optima Tax Relief.
But when I called Optima Tax, they guaranteed me that they were going to help me out the best that they can. And they did.
Optima stopped the IRS.
No more telephone calls, no more letters. Optima Tax took care of everything. I can finally sleep at night. I was stress-free.
Agnes was finally free from her IRS nightmare.
It was like a burden was lifted off of me, and it was a great feeling.
Are you in deep trouble with the IRS? You might want to listen to Agnes.
I would refer Optima Tax Relief to anyone because they got me debt-free from owing the IRS any more money.
Call Optima right now for your free consultation. Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. Optima Tax Relief. Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Varies by plan, view contracts and exclusions at endurancewarranty.com.
This is an announcement to all United States vehicle owners who own a 2003 or newer vehicle with a manufacturer's warranty about to expire, or no warranty coverage at all. With a struggling economy and the cost of living on the rise, Endurance is now offering an affordable, low-cost vehicle coverage plan to the general public. As of today, you could be one of millions of drivers that now may qualify to have your vehicle protected under this coverage and have all future covered auto repairs paid directly to the repair shop for you. You pick your plan. You pick your deductible. You even pick the repair shop. Roadside service, towing, and rental coverage is included. Get your vehicle protected now and save your wallet from costly vehicle repairs. A toll-free number has been established for you to call for your free 5-minute quote and to see if you qualify. The number to call is 800-290-6207. 800-290-6207. Again, that's 800-290-6207.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. In this final segment of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580, Our very special guest is none other than our World House contributor, the Honorable Dr. Johnny Mack. Johnny, welcome forward to the show.
Great to be here, Jesse. Thank you.
Johnny is the founder of the World House Project, LLC. Johnny, on page 22, further in calling for a revolution of values, King was mindful that the idea is not new. Dunkelman observes, the American Revolution occurred in large part because, quote, the institutions that the colonies had inherited weren't effective when applied to the new American context. America's patriots wanted to craft a government that was responsive to a very different sort of society. Their revolutionary idea included a revolution of values. In a similar manner, African Americans found the institutional architecture that the new colonial citizens erected unresponsive, to say the least, to their needs. Similar in the sense that their government was unresponsive to the needs of Black citizens, and different in that the same government excluded their full participation as citizens. Johnny, I keep hearing so many brothers and sisters out here on the streets talking about, they throw their fist in the air and they say the revolution is not going to be televised. It's not going to be on the TV. Yeah. And then I read your outstanding work and I say to myself, because it starts within.
Yeah. Again, the passage you read there, Jesse, is really instructive. If I may repeat high points of it.
Please.
The colonists, as we call them, found that the institutions of England didn't serve them well, that the government that was imposed upon them was divisive and repressive. And so they found that the very values that was being imposed upon the new social structure, the new edifice that they had created in the quote unquote newfound world simply didn't apply. And Jesse Jackson Jr., they decided to have a revolution. And Jesse, the revolution began with a value system, the very thing that King calls for. And so African Americans or Africans are brought to the country and they find, again, the same problem that the white colonists found when they came to America. That is, someone was imposing upon them a social edifice that didn't serve their needs, that was repressive and exclusionary. And so African Americans then, if we want to use that term, had to have another revolution of values. And what happened in the mid-20th century, African Americans created their own social institutions and structures. We found them in so many ways that we've mentioned before, whether it was educational or through the media, our own magazines, Jet and Ebony and Essence and so many more, own radio stations, etc. We created our own institutions, which we have since, for the most part, given up, lost, given away, or sold. And so we still find ourselves in many cases under the same predicament of a system not serving our needs and helping us to realize our full potential. So a revolution of values is nothing new. What is new is us and our work toward realizing the kind of social order we want and creating the very systems that are necessary to realize it.
Johnny, I'm struggling here, and I know that we don't have much time, and I guess we can pick up on it when I finish my homework assignment of reading this extraordinary paper, which I will definitely have done by next Thursday. It just seems to me that also Dr. King shared a new patriotism and a belief in America that traditionally, up until the time of his assassination, simply did not exist. Of course, he was disappointed in the Vietnam War and the militaristic aspects of this question of how we position ourselves in the world house. He had obviously championed a battle against racism. That's two of the evils. And this third evil, this evil of poverty, which William Barber and Dr. Teresa Hord Owens and others of our guests have put a particular focus on, not just the poverty associated with one's financial condition, but the poverty of spirit. For Dr. King also says, if a man can't eat or have a loaf of bread or a sandwich, that it's hard to get them to philosophize and have a sense of spiritual awareness if their stomachs are empty. I raised this concern with you back to this comprehensive nature of what the meta logic of King's nonviolence, by breaking it down into three pillars: racism, militarism, and poverty. That Dr. King is also looking at the challenges within each of us to overcome our own sense of racism, our own sense of fighting violence and our response to violence, and addressing this fundamental issue of having a more egalitarian society and a more egalitarian spirit of sharing with our neighbor.
So Jesse, let's keep in mind, and we won't finish this, our hour is almost up, and I hope we do come back to it next week, that those triple evils are really triple values. Those evils are values themselves. Poverty is a value of cupidity or greed. And racism is the value of bigotry, of othering people, making them the other. And then rival or militarism is a value of rivalry and violent rivalry, of violent competition. And so if you create a social order and think about them as values, it gives a whole new perspective of what King is talking about.
Johnny, we have about 2 minutes before the show ends. Your word of hope for the week.
Well, the word of hope is there are alternative values. And understanding what those alternative values are is really what can help us realize King's vision of a world house and what he called the beloved community. A community is not so much where we are, and a community is not so much what we are, but community is both those and more. A community is what we do, how we interact with each other, and how we interact with ourselves, how we respect ourselves in dignity and worth. And so if we can grasp this alternative set of values, we can realize King's dream. The question is, what are those values, and how do we realize them in the social edifice?
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to The World House with Dr. Johnny Mack. Dr. Johnny Mack is on our program every Thursday, one of our most valuable contributors and one of the most valuable aspects and popular aspects of our entire long week show. When we come forward tomorrow, we will be on Fat Meat Fridays with Gina Towns and our very special guest, who remains a secret at this hour, but I'm grateful. Gina, our producer, is the creator of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. When we come forward, it will be tomorrow on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Thank you, KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber